West Ham are open to selling Craig Dawson in the January transfer window, ideally signing a replacement first. That's according to our good friend Dermesh, who also reports that Wolves are back in for the centre-back. Now this comes as no surprise to West Ham fans. In fact, the only surprise is that it's Wolves that's come back in for him. Obviously it was all Bruno Lage in the summer that tried to get into the Molineux. Since then there's been a change, but the fact that Lopetegui still wants him as well, that's a bit of a surprise to me anyway. But going back to May, we were told in May, as soon as that season finished, ex-West Ham employee told us that Craig Dawson had informed the club of his desires to leave in the summer. He wished to move back up north. His family were still located there and he wanted to move back to be with them. Now, the only surprise about that was the fact that his family still live up there. I mean, we signed him from Watford. I just assumed he'd live a lot more local, but regardless, Dawson did everything right, had a quiet word with somebody behind the scenes and just said, I want to leave, here's my reasoning why, and you can't argue with the reasons either. It's to move back for family reasons, fine, 100% get it, you don't need to explain. Over to West Ham. Now we obviously failed to sell him in the summer. It looked like he was going to go on deadline day to Wolves, but it all hinged on West Ham getting Ben Lorek from Southampton. He joined Aston Villa, therefore West Ham then had to block the move for Dawson to go to Wolves, so he had to remain here. And I agree with that. At the end of the day, regardless of a player's desire, he's got a contract and West Ham have to do what's best for West Ham. And then you have to take into consideration the fact that Agbona was on his way back from an injury, the fact that Agerd was out for quite a while as well. So we were short in that area. It was looking a little bit sketchy at centre-back. So keeping Craig Dawson made sense from David Moyes' perspective. Personally, I would have liked to have seen him leave because it's the right thing to do to some extent and he's given the club everything really. But I get why the club kept him. Now, here we are today in the January transfer window. The reports are that he could still be off to Wolves. Between then and now, the last window shutting in this one, Dawson's given 100% to West Ham, just like he has done his whole time here. 100%. Every single game he's been committed. He hasn't always been the best centre-back in the world, but he's given everything. A model professional. And for that reason, I hope he does get his move to Wolves in this window as well. I think he deserves it. Obviously, in the last 6 months of his contract, so even if he remains here after January, he will walk out on a free at the end of the season. And he's been a fantastic servant. I think when we signed him, I wasn't very happy with it. I thought it was a poor centre-back. Like I said, we just got him from Watford. But I say it surprised me, shocked me as how good he has been. I think he's been absolutely brilliant for us. That performance in France will stay with me forevermore. I always bang on about Winston Reid at the Etihad. Craig Dawson away to Lyon. His individual performance is up there with a good performance I've seen from any centre-back over 90 minutes at West Ham. It was absolutely fantastic. But anyway, regardless, like I said, he deserves the move to Wolves. This will be a bit of a blow for David Moyes, I think, because Moyes trusts Craig Dawson, and you can see why. It's understandable. And I'm not sure he's got that trust level with some of the other centre-backs at the club. Also, even if he's injured, he will still play. If he's 80% fit, Dawson will still make himself available. He's played with a broken nose weeks on end. He will give everything to the shirt. So if you're a Wolves fan watching this, you're getting a committed player, 100%. And this, I think this is a bit of a blow for Moyes. I imagine Moyes ideally would like to keep him till the end of the season and allow him to go on a free because he knows what he's getting with Craig Dawson. And even if we do get a replacement prior, there's still that risk element that you don't know it will work out. As for Dawson leaving, I'm okay with it for the reasons I've already given, which is that he's done everything by the book, he's done everything right, he's given 100%. He deserves the move if he wants it. In regards to the player and what will remain at West Ham, I can see why we want a replacement first. Now, obviously, when everybody's fit, ideally our first choice pairing will be Nathan Gerrard and Kurt Zouma. It's the middle of January and we're yet to see that partnership, so we can't rely on it. We can't. Hopefully, ironically, the first time we might see them play together is against Wolves this weekend, and fingers crossed we do. But it's a partnership I don't think you can rely on. I think you can rely on Jared Bourne playing right wing. Very, very little injury problems since coming to West Ham. Zuma's had a lot. Now, Aguerd was a one-off impact injury. Hopefully, he's here for the rest of the season. We don't have another issue. But with Kurt Zouma, you can't bank on that. He's had enough injury problems since joining West Ham. So then you start looking at the squad depth. Dawson leaving, I mean, there's still 2 senior centre-backs here, Ogbonna and Tilo Kehrer. Now, Ogbonna, he's done remarkably well to return from his injury. I'm just not convinced by him, as he is Ogbonna at Premier League centre-back level. My answer today is I'm not sure. I don't think so. To see Ogbonna play a sustained period of time as our first choice centre-back would make me a little bit nervous, if I'm honest with you. I think he's got a role. I think he's got a squad role. I think as a leader, we're lacking that at the minute. So in terms of off the pitch, I think he's got a lot to offer. But I would get nervous relying on Ogbonna. Tilo Kehrer, when he first came in, some fantastic games at centre-back. We've had some dodgy games at centre-back and we've had some terrible games at full-back. But he's got a role to play. He's still a good player. Tilo Kehrer is still a good player and he's a good option to have in the squad. But I'm not sure that's enough. So I do think we would need another centre-back if we allow Craig Dawson to leave. And this is why the links to Michael Keane last week made sense. Homegrown, cheap, available, Premier League experience. You can understand why that move appeals to David Moyes and appeals to West Ham. Now, the reports last week were that we're trying to get him on loan, but that's changed now because the same rumours suggest that Everton don't wish to loan Michael Keane out to a relegation rival. They don't want to strengthen. Now, I would argue, right? I would argue that Everton loaning Michael Keane to someone like West Ham isn't necessarily strengthening West Ham. I'm joking, that's too harsh. He might end up being good, right? But the reports are that Everton are open to selling Michael Keane, but they're not so keen on loaning out Keane. A lot of Keanes in there, but you know what I'm trying to say. Everton don't wish to loan him, but they're open to selling him. It makes sense. It does make sense. While I poo-poo it, I also dismiss Craig Dawson and look how good that turned out to be. In regards to the player, Dawson this is, I think it's possibly the right time. Like I said, it makes me a little bit nervous because I don't have faith in us signing an adequate replacement. If we got somebody in that I knew was good, I'd be okay with letting Dawson leave because I don't think his performances have been as good this season as they have been in the past. I think he was at fault for both goals in the Leeds United game, for example. He's never been the fastest centre-back, which is fine when your positioning is good and you play as deep as West Ham do. You don't always have to rely on your pace, and he's not really got anything to rely on. But even that, I think he somehow looks a little bit slower this season than he did last season. So for that reason, I'm okay with Dawson going. The club will get a little bit of money for him. I don't know, $1 million, $2 million, doesn't sound much, but we only paid 2 for him and he's got 6 months to go in his contract. It would cover a loan fee for a centre-back to come in. So it makes sense for Craig Dawson. Makes sense for Wolves, I think. I don't think he'd be first choice there. I think Kilman and Collins are 2 fantastic centre-backs. Obviously, Totti's looking quite good as well. But just gives them that extra squad depth. Also ticks the homegrown box. And like I said, it was a surprise to see Wolves linked with him once more. But I've also seen the reports a couple of weeks ago that Lopetegui is looking to bring in English players. He wants more of an English presence within that Wolves squad. And I think somebody like Dawson is just a safe bet from that aspect. Somebody that you don't have to play every week. Homegrown, loads of experience, and he is reliable. And you know he's available pretty much every week as well. His injury record's really good. So from Wolves' perspective, it's low risk and low cost. And I think the biggest risk here is actually West Ham, because we now need to replace him. Right when all the centre-backs are fully fit, he's our third choice centre-back, isn't he? You know, it's a big player, it's a big position, a big squad status, if you like, to sell in the January transfer window, and it immediately applies pressure. And I know we will probably hold out till we get a replacement in, but we tried this in the summer. We had 2 or 3 months in the summer to get this sorted, and we failed to get it sorted. So do I have confidence we're going to manage to get it sorted in 3 weeks? Not really. I think Dawson deserves to leave. I think, and I hope he does for him. The interesting thing is, there's also other reports around this, and it said that Craig Dawson isn't the only player from West Ham that Wolves are interested in the January transfer window. Now, the other player wasn't mentioned. It was Wolves are backing for Craig Dawson. Might not be the only West Ham player Wolves are after in this window, and they left it there. That was it. Now, I don't like that kind of reporting, because I think, well, if you know who it is, just say who it is. Essentially, if Wolves bid for any, we've got 24 first team squad players we've got, including Dawson. If Wolves bid for any of the 23, that source can say, well, I was right. I mean, technically he would be right, but because he hasn't named it, it's very vague. So automatically you start guessing. As a West Ham fan, I'm thinking, well, who could it be then? And you're starting to rule out positions and players. For example, centre midfield. Wolves are heavily stacked in there with the talent they've got, and a couple of youngsters coming through that can play in centre midfield for Wolves as well. They don't need a centre midfielder. I think, like everyone else down the bottom, they need the attacking side of the game. So it was hard not to come to Jared Bowen as a conclusion, like I said, with the whole desire to bring in English talent for the lack of goals. He's not having the best season at West Ham at the minute, which may increase his availability. I'm guessing. I don't know who it is, but the reports were that Wolves are after 2 West Ham players. Dawson's just one of them. My guess would be that Bowen is the other. And I would be selling Bowen under no circumstances this January. It doesn't matter how much it is, really. I would not accept it. Now, obviously, if you say 100 million, yes, I would accept it. But nobody's bidding that, are they? Okay, a realistic bid for Bowen came in, I'd be saying no, because it won't be enough. It won't be an adequate amount for us to go replace him. So we'll have to wait and see if there is actually a second West Ham player that Wolves are after. But apparently there is. But Dawson, certainly. West Ham are open to offers. Ideally want to get a replacement first, and Wolves are in for Craig Dawson. And who do we play on Saturday? Wolves. Yeah, because that's not going to be a hassle, is it?